Never stop reading Bible. Today, we're jumping into a really pivotal moment from the book of Acts, specifically chapters 7 through 9. It's a story about an intense crisis that you'd think would crush a new movement, but instead, it did the exact opposite. It sparked an incredible, unstoppable expansion.
Okay, so let's dive right in. Our story kicks off with this incredibly bold accusation. It comes from a man named Stephen, and he's standing before the Sanhedrin. We're talking the highest religious core in all of Jerusalem. And these weren't just words. Wow, they were the spark that lit a fire, setting off a chain reaction that would literally change the world.
So let's talk about Stephen. This is the guy whose courageous stand would make him the very first Christian martyr. And in doing so, well, he changed everything for the early church, forever.
So Stephen gets up in front of this council and he gives this incredible speech. But here's the thing, it's not really a defense. It's more like an accusation. He walks them through their own history, from Abraham to Joseph to Moses, pointing out this painful pattern. Time and time again, their ancestors had rejected God's messengers. And then he brings it right to the present, basically saying, and you guys just did the same thing, but worse, you rejected Jesus.
So you'd hope they'd listen, right? Nope. Their reaction wasn't reflection, it was just pure rage. They dragged Stephen out of the city and stoned him to death. Now, his execution wasn't just the end of one man's life. It was the trigger. It unleashed this massive wave of persecution across the city, all designed to stamp out this new Christian movement for good.
But here's the crazy part. The plan to destroy the church, it backfired. Big time. What was meant for evil actually became the engine for its growth. The persecution acted like this powerful wind, scattering the believers and the seeds of their message far, far beyond the walls of Jerusalem.
You can see how this all connects, right? It's like a domino effect. The execution leads to persecution, which forces all the believers to run for their lives. But as they scattered, they didn't go into hiding. No, they took their message with them. And for the very first time, it started to take root in brand new places, like the historically hostile region of Samaria. And what's so cool is that this wasn't just about covering more ground. It was about breaking down walls. We see this guy Philip, one of the believers who fled, sharing the message with the Samaritans. Then, an angel literally tells him to go talk to a high-ranking Ethiopian official on a desert road. The faith was breaking out of its original container and starting its journey to the ends of the earth. All right, now let's talk about the main villain of this story. Or so you'd think. The most feared leader of this whole persecution was a young Pharisee named Saul. He was brilliant, he was driven, and he was dead set on wiping out the church. He was its biggest nightmare. But in one of the most incredible twists in history, he's about to become its greatest hero. So, Saul's on a mission. He has official paperwork from the high priest, and he's heading to Damascus. His goal is simple. Find anyone who follows Jesus, men or women, and drag them back to Jerusalem in chains. The Bible literally says he was breathing out murderous threats. That's how intense this guy was.
But then, on that road, everything stops. A light from heaven, blindingly bright, flashes around him and knocks him straight to the ground. And he hears a voice ask, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" It was a direct, life-shattering encounter with the risen Jesus himself, and it left him blind and completely shaken for 3 days.
I mean, just look at this transformation. It's absolutely staggering. A complete 180. The guy who was cheering on Stephen's death, now he's in the synagogues powerfully preaching for Jesus. The man who dragged believers to prison is now the one proving that Jesus is the Messiah. The hunter had officially become the hunted.
So Saul's conversion is this massive, stunning turning point, right? It's a clear sign this movement is way more than just a human thing. But it wasn't happening in a vacuum. It was all happening alongside this wider story of the church's growing power and influence all across the region. While the brand new convert Saul was starting to preach, the Apostle Peter was out there performing incredible miracles. You've got him healing a man who had been paralyzed for 8 years, then he raises a beloved disciple named Dorcas back to life. Can you imagine? The result was that the church wasn't just surviving, it was thriving, growing in peace, and gaining new followers every day. So here's the bottom line. What started with the tragedy of Stephen's death didn't end in defeat. That moment of crisis, that attempt to silence the message, became the very fuel for an unstoppable global expansion. Every attempt to shut it down only ended up making it louder.
And this whole story from Acts really leaves us with a huge question, one that's just as relevant for us today. It makes you wonder, right? In our own lives and in our world, can our moments of greatest opposition actually contain the seeds of our greatest opportunity?
Thanks for joining us for this explainer. This was produced by the Center Studio.